Okay, guys, so I'm about to do something completely different, okay? Something that I've never done before, ever on my channel. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to actually go on the actual website of Congress where they post these bills and where they say like where people are saying like yo praising this bill, they praising this bill because of a title that they give this bill, like the whole "don't say gay" bill that they did with freaking DeSantis. Even though if you actually read that bill, it didn't say like strictly you can't talk about like gay problems. It was just talking about you can't really talk about sexual orientation with kids in elementary school, which it should be. You should not, teachers should not be having the rights, should not be telling kids about some sexual things they have with they significant partners. Again, and they think that they coming out against their kids, against some kids that not are mature. They think that somehow that's empowering when they know when coming out to adults is more better, and they feel more empowered. But them coming out to kids, it feels like they're empowered with that one. So guys, like I said, what I'm about to do is that I'm about to do something completely different, something I've never done before. I'm I'm about to read this freaking infant, this freaking baby formula bill from I'm gonna see it from Congress.gov, and then I'm gonna go to GovTrack because GovTrack has more of the title on it. So here's from Congress.gov, the Infant Formula Supplemental Appropriations Act. Let's go ahead and read some of this text from HR 7790, making emergency supplemental appropriations to address the shortage of infant formula in the United States for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2022, and for the other purposes, in the Senate of the United States. Received, read the first time, read the second time, and placed on the calendar. An act making emergency supplemental appropriations to address the shortage of infant formula in the United States for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2022, and for other purposes. Okay, so they're addressing it. So they're addressing the free. They wanted to address the formula and all that stuff, and then apparently there's some people people on the Republican side that oppose this bill because this when they first got this bill they said like it was a bunch of pages long and they could not read all those read all that papers in a certain amount of time. So we gonna actually see what exactly is in it because it's the thing. People, here's how the media does it nowadays. They give a certain bill a name that they know people are just gonna go with and don't actually read upon. So they say the whole reparations. They already know black people will be all for it, but they won't. Some of them won't actually read the bill. When it would come to school, if they give a bill out that says helping underprivileged or disenfranchised schools, if they give a bill that name, people would just automatically go with it and just say, yeah, vote for it. I'm going with the party that's voting for this, that's voting for this certain bill. But then again, they don't actually read it. So let's keep on going, man. For an additional amount for salaries and expenses, $28 million to remain available until September 30th, 2023, shall be available to address the current shortage of FDA-regulated infant formula and certain medical foods in the United States, and to prevent future shortages, including such steps as may be necessary to prevent fraudulent products from entering the United States market, provided that the Commissioner of Food and Drugs shall report to the committees on appropriations of the House of Representatives and the Senate on a weekly basis on obligations of funding under the heading in this act to address the shortage of infant formula and certain medical foods in the United States. That such amount is designated by the Congress as being for an emergency requirement pursuant to Section 4001A1 and Section 4000B of ESCON Representative 14 117 Congress. The concurrent resolution of the budget for fiscal year 2022. Section 101. Each amount appropriate or made available by this act is in addition to amounts otherwise appropriated for the fiscal year involved. Section 102. Unless otherwise provided for by this act, the additional amounts appropriated by this act to appropriations accounts shall be available under the authorities and conditions applicable to such appropriations accounts for fiscal year 2022. This act may be cited as the Infant Formula Supplemental Appropriations Act, passed the House of Representatives May 18, 2022. Okay, so $28 million is going to the FDA. That's what we get. That's what we get from this subsection, and this is an act of making emergency supplemental appropriations to address the shortage of infant formula in the United States for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2022. Okay, so it's mainly just addressing it, but what is it actually doing? Let's go ahead and read from GovTrack on HR 7791, and let's go ahead and read upon this. So HR 7791, an act to amend the Child Nutrition Act of 1966 to establish waiver authority to address certain emergencies, disasters, and supply chain disruptions, and for other purposes. Okay, so this bill is basically to address it. Short title: this may be cited as the access to baby formula of 2022. Authority to address certain emergencies, disasters, and supply chain disruptions. Section 17 of the Child Nutrition Act of 1966, U.S. 42 U.S.C. 1786 is amended. In subsection 1 is subsection B by adding at the end the following. 24. Supply chain disruption. The term supply chain disruption means a shortage of supplemental foods that impedes the redemption of food instruments, as determined by the Secretary. 2. In subsection H8 by adding at the end of the following. Infant formula cost containment contract requirement. In general, the Secretary shall require that each infant formula cost containment contract renew or enter into on or after the date of the enactment of the Access to Baby Formula Act of 2022 includes remedies in the event of an infant formula recall, including how an infant formula manufacturer will protect against disruption to program participants in the state. 2. Rebates. In the case of an infant formula recall, an infant formula manufacturer contracted to provide infant formula under this section shall comply with the contract requirements under clause. Memorandum of Understanding. Not later than 30 days after the date of the enactment of the Access to Baby Formula Act of 2022, the Secretary shall ensure there is memorandum of understanding between the Secretary and the Secretary of Health and Human Services. That includes procedures to promote coordination and information sharing between the Department of Agriculture and Department of Health and Human Services regarding any supply chain disruption, including a supplemental food recall. Okay, so what's this have to do with actually getting baby formula out of there? Because right now they're just addressing it. Yeah, they're just addressing it. And 3, by adding at the end the following: emergencies and disasters in general, notwithstanding any other provision of law during an emergency period. The Secretary may modify or waive any qualified administration requirement for one or more state agencies if A, the qualified administration requirement cannot be met by state agencies during any portion of the emergency period under the conditions which prompt the emergency period, and B, the modification of waiver of such a requirement. 1, is necessary to provide assistance under the section, and 2, does not substantially weaken the nutritional quality of supplemental foods provided under the section. The duration. A waiver established under this subsection may be available for a period or of not greater than the emergency period and the 60 days after the end of such emergency period. 3, definitions. In this subsection A, emergency period. The term emergency period means a period during which there exists 1, a period health emergency declared by the Secretary of Health and Human Resources under subsection of the Section 319 of the Public Health Service Act, 42 USC 247D. 2, any renewal of such a public health emergency pursuant to such Section 319. 3, a presidentially declared major disaster as defined under Section 102 of the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act. 4, a presidentially declared emergency as defined under Section 102 of the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act. B. Qualified administration requirement. The term qualified administration requirement means a requirement under this section or any regularly requirement issued pursuant, if hopefully I'm saying that right, to the section. Supply chain disruptions. In general, notwithstanding any other provision of law, during a supply chain disruption, including a supplemental food product recall, the Secretary may modify or waive any qualified administration requirement for one or more state agencies if A, the qualified administration requirement cannot be met by state agencies during any portion of the supply chain disruption, including a supplemental food product recall under the conditions which prompted such disruption or recall, and B, the modification or waiver of such a requirement is necessary to provide assistance under this section, and 2, does not substantially weaken the nutritional quality of supplemental food provided under this section. Okay, so all I'm hearing is that they are, for what I read, they are giving $28 million to the freaking FDA, and they are doing a whole bunch of recalls right now. But so what does that have to do with actually getting baby formula out of there? 2, waiver authority. The Secretary may under a waiver or modification under paragraph 1, A, permit authorized vendors to exchange or substitute authorized supplemental foods obtained with food insurance beyond exchanges for an identical exact brand and size food item. B, waive any requirement with respect to medical documentation for the insurance of non-contract brand infant formula, except for the requirements for participants receiving food package 3, as defined in section 246.10 E3 of Title 7 Code of Federal Regulations as in effect on the date of the enactment of this subsection. C, waive the maximum maximum monthly allowance for infant formula, and D, waive any additional qualified administrative requirements to address a supply chain disruption, including a supplemental food product recall. Duration, a waiver or modification established under the subsection. A, may be available for a period of not more than 45 days to begin on the date determined by the Secretary. And 2, renewed so long as the Secretary provides notice at least 15 days before such renewal. And B, shall not be available for the date that is 60 days after the supply chain disruption for which such waiver is established ceases to exist. Okay, again, guys, this is again they are trying to play softball because this is a self-inflicted wound right here. We all saw this coming because these policies that they are bringing forth nowadays, it's not really harming like the high class, it's harming the middle class and the freaking low class. Like, guys, apparently that from the post-millennial, there's gas is $10 in Washington State, and there's a heavy shortage of gas in Washington State that nobody can get any gas anywhere because of the self-inflicted wound that this administration has done. They could have prevented that if they had kept those freaking gas pipelines and oil pipelines open. But instead, they wanted to do this whole green new energy deal and shut everything right now so they can get to the plan for green energy. And they themselves said that whole green energy stuff won't be coming until 2030 or 2040. So they 8 years too early to shut this stuff down. So what's going to happen? The 2022 midterms, if they by chance still win this, just throw the other party away because they're obviously useless. They seriously need to bring in a independent guy or a libertarian. Okay, so 4, transparency. A, in general, if the Secretary determines that a supply chain disruption exists and issues a waiver or a modification under the subsection, the Secretary shall notify each state agency affected by such disruptions and include with such notification an explanation of such determination. B, publication. The Secretary shall make each determination described in subparagraph A publicly available on the website of the Department. C. State agency requirements. In the case of a waiver or modification under the subsection related to infant formula, a state agency notified under subparagraph A shall notify each infant formula manufacturer that has a contract with such state agency with respect to such notification. B. Qualified administrative requirement defined. For purposes of the subsection, the term qualified administrative requirement has the meanings given the term in subsection. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Vice President of the United States, and the President of the Senate. Okay, so what this is they're basically just giving complete power to the this certain secretary. This secretary and the in the Congress but it's not really addressing how they're gonna get these formulas out. What they're doing is like they're just this secretary is just gonna be calling all these places and trying to get in contact with all these places saying like, yo, why ain't y'all distributing more safe baby formula for the American people? Here's the thing, man. When your main focus is green new energy and freaking all this miraculous government spending, what do you think is going to happen? Because the past 2 years, ever since Joe Biden got in office, there's been more money going to the government, and you know the same thing happened under Trump. I'm not going to disrupt that. But when it came to like, hey man, we're here to help. We're here to help you. We're here to help you. Trust the government. But then all that money that could have went to the American people, or all these jobs, and you know all these Keystone pipelines that could have prevented all this freaking gas being $4 now. Like guys, I had to pay $50 freaking to get a full tank of gas, and my gas tank is not even that big. So just imagine truck drivers. Imagine the payment of gas they have to pay out their own pockets because of what this administration is doing. So what this is right here, this is not a bill to actually get baby formula out there. It's mainly to address it. That's what this is. And you got people like the freaking young Turks praising this bill, acting like this bill is a safe haven, and anybody that voted against it is a piece of crap. This bill is useless. This bill is useless.
So-called pro-life GOP lawmakers in the House decided to vote against legislation that would actually help people who are grappling with the baby formula shortage in the country as we speak. Now
Okay, so I just read the bill, right? I just read the bill, y'all. So what this bill just said, it says they're just addressing it, but they're not. What are they actually doing to actually get the baby formula out? They're just making calls instead of actually, you know, hey, I'm gonna send this group of the military to come help out, you know, just let them know what exactly they need to do in order to get baby formula out. But no, what it is that they just gave $28 million to the FDA, and not to mention they're sending a lot of baby formula out to the U.S.-Mexico border. And there's still a whole bunch of baby formula that could have been brought to these to the states. So again, guys, I just read the bill. It's only addressing it. It's not really doing anything. They're not really doing anything about it for real. So let's go in here and the Conspirian. Let's go and hear her out.
Talked about that baby formula shortage. We explained why it's happening. Abbott, which is a corporation that makes Similac and other baby formulas, decided to invest its profits into corporate stock buybacks instead of fixing some of their machinery, which was allowing for bacteria to get into the baby formula. So that tainted baby formula ended up making babies sick, 2 of whom died as a result, and it led to a massive recall and a shutdown of its Sturgis plant.
Okay. Yeah, that did happen. That did happen. I'm not going to deny that.
Now, there are efforts underway by Democrats in Congress and by the Biden administration to do something, emergency efforts to ensure that parents who have babies have access to baby formula, especially if they're unable to breastfeed or provide any other type of nutrients for their kids. And so the House voted 414-9 to approve a measure that would allow more formula to be purchased with money from a federal program that aids low-income women, infants, and children. So what?
Okay, so again, I just read the bill. The bill is literally right here. For what this saying from NBC News is to that will allow more formula to be purchased with money from a federal program that aids low-income women, infants, and children. Guys, the bill, it's right here. For an additional amount of salaries and expenses, $28 million to remain available until September 30th, 2023, shall be available to address, keyword, to address the current shortage of FDA-regulated infant formula and certain medical foods in the United States to prevent future shortages, including such steps as be necessary to prevent fraudulent products from entering the United States market. That the Commissioner of Food and Drugs shall report to the committees on appropriations of the House and Representatives and the Senate on a weekly basis on obligations of funding under this heading in this act to address the shortage of infant formula and certain medical foods in the United States. So it's to address it, but are they actually giving that? They're giving it mainly to the FDA, but it's the FDA actually giving that money to the workers that is probably a shortage of workers at the freaking warehouses where they administer these baby formulas, because the FDA has not come out and said, from my knowledge, they have not come out and said like, yo, we need more workers in these warehouses to make sure we get these baby formulas out. I have not heard that not once from the freaking FDA. It's just more money. It's just more money being thrown to the government. But I ain't hear anything about any worker shortages. How about did they talk about worker shortages? Let me know in the comment section below if they did. But what this is that they say that this is what this bill is going to save. But guys, if you actually read it, they're just addressing the situation. They're not actually doing anything about it.
Coincidence? I think not.
They're just giving more money back to the FDA. Giving more money to the FDA amid the shortage, and that shortage could have went to workers that are actually working for these freaking companies that make the baby formula. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe the Young Turks know something that I don't. Maybe they're more knowledgeable than I am. I'm sorry. I could not say that with a straight face. But yeah, guys. Again, this is something I've never done before. But we gonna see what happens if when most likely this thing passes the Senate. But again, guys, if it does pass the Senate and go and head straight to the White House, look back at this channel. Let everybody know that I actually read it and actually trying to tell people who are too lazy to read it. It's just some secretary addressing the problem, but they're not actually doing like for real. Look at all this right here. Address the problem of the food shortage and shortage of baby formula. They're just addressing it. That's it. They're not. What are they actually going to do? Going to do anything about it? Who knows? But guys, like I said, I just read the bill for y'all. Hope hopefully some of y'all could probably find a better understanding with this than I could. Anybody that actually probably has worked for a warehouse that makes the baby formula. Anybody that could come on my channel, give me a heads up about what's probably going on in those certain warehouses, because there's not a warehouse near me that does like baby formula and all that stuff. So anybody that's probably living close to one or knows somebody that's living close to one, hit me up on my Twitter, hit me up on my YouTube. Let me know what goes on in those warehouses. Whether it be a shortage of workers, or some people just trying to push things out and not being like extra careful with some of these baby formulas. But like I said, man, let me know in the comments below how y'all feel about this. If you guys like what I'm saying, like and subscribe to the video, hit the notification bell. I will see y'all next one. Peace.